10 minutes.
She could, she was very, uh, for better, what a better word, I guess. She was talented in,
Was she telling music or just
no,
crafty?
no.
I told John I think I'd rather be able to do music. I don't know.
No, she was not.
Musically inclined like my
but
sister.
I think I could have now if I could have applied myself to some of that stuff, I could have, but I didn't like it. I wanted to read. Um, I just didn't care to follow because I'd come in. My mother wouldn't have one thing done in that house. I like to be a neat person. I like to be a clean person.
Don't come to my house.
I like order because if I'm in a house without, well, my house is small and I have a lot of stuff back in there. I'm storing in that little room. But I like order, and if I can't have order, I can't sit down in this chair and relax until I get up and
Oh, I can.
unless I'm terribly sick, you know.
I don't have the energy, so
Well, I don't have much energy anymore either, and it makes me so disgusted because I like to. Now my grandmother on my dad's side, Pennsylvania Dutch people are noted for their industrial traits.
Is that what Antrims are?
Her name was Helm, H-A-L-A-A-M.
Okay, you're going by her maiden. Okay.
Pennsylvania Dutch lady.
All right.
They're most of them have dark complexions. They're very industrious people. And one thing, they're very superstitious people. And my dad was a superstitious man if there ever lived one. And he had me indoctrinated into believing that a black cat couldn't cross my path. I never walk under a ladder. Don't break a mirror. A looking glass, they called them in those days, looking glasses. Don't break a looking glass. Oh, dear. And I thought, wow. But you know that, what you sow into a kid, you know, I've had to break it. It's just pure witchcraft. Pure witchcraft. And these old Pennsylvania Dutch people, the Dutch people, they would hang a sieve up over the head of their bed. And they say, well, the devil can't get you until he goes through all those little holes in the sieve. In and out, in and out. And of course, horseshoes hanging on the horseshoe was definitely good luck if they found one.
Yeah, rabbit foot.
And you'll see that yet in these old Dutch pictures, you know, those colonies of the Dutch people. I don't know if the Mennonites and Amish people were ancestry is, they're German. I don't know if they were the Dutch. There's a difference between the Dutch and the
They're
German.
more, when he lived with them one summer, did they seem to be superstitious?
Not really.
Whereabouts were they?
Well, they were
Pennsylvania.
in Ferdinand, right outside Lancaster.
That's Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
They have they have those, and I don't know if they're the same group that make the Amana refrigerators and the Amana appliances.
Some have turned Mennonites now, but mostly it's Amish, isn't it? Amish stuff.
And there used to be some come into Chattanooga. They still wear their little hoods and bring their produce down there, you know.
They're good cooks too.
Well, that's all they do. They don't have a lot of worldly entertainment.
They don't have any.
None at all.
They don't. There's an article in a Time magazine or some magazine like that about how some of the younger Amish kids are causing grief to the
Breaking loose in the. Actually, it's a cult. I was thinking about me. Now, I hadn't known anything about a church. I got saved in my home. That little home, and all I had was a radio. And there was a brother Charles Fuller. I don't know how in the world I could get that in from Minnesota, in from California, but I did. I would get a message from Charles E. Fuller. And I would listen to that. And I'd always had a longing in my heart. I remember your mother visited, when we lived in Minneapolis, she came to see Paul. But that was funny. I thought none of the family liked me in the first place. And they all looked down on me because I had a big family. That's what I had an idea. And they probably did. I don't know.
They probably didn't, too.
And you don't know my family. They were very cool and hard and no
You're
love.
talking about your brothers?
I'm talking about the whole. Your mother was the only one that was, and Paul, the three younger ones. But I didn't. The older ones are more like uncles to me, and like Ruby was like a relative.
She's way older than you.
And but I had a kind of a, maybe it was just the way I'd been brought up, no home. I was from a dysfunctional, you talk about dysfunctional home. I wouldn't go into all the details of my home, no way, Jose, because it would discourage anybody, you know, and I don't feel like that's a good topic.
You mean getting shifted here and there and everywhere?
Everywhere, and that wasn't the half. I mean, it was a kid shouldn't have been subject to things that I had been subject to, you know, with no home life, no mom and dad, per se, you know, and it was,
So you know firsthand what kids go through.
I know
that
firsthand,
live
and if
like
I
that.
guess possibly if there had been dope and junk, not that I'd wanted to gotten into it, but if a kid just floats around with no body, what are they going to do? They need some kind of a family, so to speak, you know?
That's why they get in gangs. Gangs is their family, isn't it?
But I had a kind of a dysfunctional life. And I met I think when a person is like that, they're automatically drawn to all these dysfunctional people, all these,
Yeah.
you don't make good choices, you know? And then when I knew a little bit, and I wrote and told your mother, I said something, I got down and prayed one night, all by myself. I was there alone. I was alone most of the time. Your dad came in for clean clothes, or your dad, your uncle, and a few things, and then he'd leave and be gone. Spend a lot of time in the pool halls, and wherever else, I don't know. But, and then that was like I said, I spent 13 years in a concentration camp there, you know, with him. And the children, I didn't, if a person's not, now we did get the love from my dad, but it was so it wasn't long periods, you know what I mean? But my mother, either she was burned out on family or she did have this head injury. Because it's getting the cooler in here now. But, now, I've forgiven everybody. I mean, I've gone back and I've forgiven everybody I ever knew and everybody I didn't know, you know, because you have to. You can't carry this stuff.
Oh, yeah. You
It'll make you sick.
Can't even be happy unless you do.
You've got to go back, and I've had to ask the Lord to give me love for their souls and forgive me, because you carry this stuff, it's going to kill you.
Oh, yeah.
And, but that was the 13 years of horrible life. We had nothing and no place to put it. Well, they rained out, and so your dad had this friend. He gave us all the 7-year itch, by the way. That's where it all came from. Yeah. Remember when you got it? Name it.
I thought it was impetigo.
Well, it started in impetigo, and it's 7-year itch, and it went
Terrible.
You scratch it and turns into impetigo.
Oh, it was awful. I remember.
And that's where that came from. He got his car, and I guess your dad got together a little money. I left a washing machine. I was so proud of that, and this little set of furniture I got to eat on. Your dad broke, I keep calling your dad, your uncle Ronald broke one of the chairs. He came in drunk. And this is like something out of a horror story. He came in drunk because I had gone down to a little church. Then after I'd gotten, Yvonne was a baby. That happened in the summertime of 1940. And after she was born, I got into an old car that he had. I guess he'd gone to the pool over the weekend or wherever. I got in that old thing and I had enough gas to start it and go. I could drive barely, but not much. I'd learned how to drive out in the field, carrying the lunch off the guys in an old Model T Ford, Model 8. And I'd bump over those old ruts out there in that old thing. Kind of fun. But I learned how to drive a little bit, but he had this old kind of probably an old wreck of a car. But I got in it, and I was going to go down to Herman, that's 5 miles away, and I was going to go to church. I knew there was a little church down there, and I was going down there. Well, I got down there, and I went to the church. I kind of liked it. And I thought, well, they won't have to know where I live, because I'm ashamed of it. And so I got the kids in, and we started back. And guess what? We ran out of gas. I got over the side of the road. I thought I never could do anything and get away with it, you know, with the kid's dad. Because the devil always made him come right then, you know. Well, somebody came along. I guess they knew me. And I knew them or something or other. But anyway, they gave me and the kids a ride home. And I had a bunch of little kids, you know. They felt sorry for me. But I had to leave the car there. And Ronald came in. He was furious. He was horrible. He was absolutely terrible. I don't know, but I think I didn't know anything about sanctification. I know that something had happened to me. I didn't want to go to any of those silly movies anymore. I didn't want to gamble at the fair. I just sit there and look at it and watch it. Something had happened to me, I knew, but I didn't know really what had happened. And he said, and he come in, he was just getting outrageous. And he said, well, he started carrying on. He took one of those chairs. I still don't know how I got the money to buy it. I must have scraped up something. He took one of those chairs, and I was so happy with those chairs. He took it out, and he broke that legs right off that chair.
That's what my
And
dad used to do.
He was going to, he didn't only do this one time, Ronald. He started to grab some old, we didn't have many clothes. I was lucky if I had a couple of changes, one for good, you know. He grabs up whatever and he throws them out. I thought, hey, now this has gone far enough. I used to be a pretty good shot. I was a 410 rifle. Journey had a gun around the house. I had this funny little old desk, I remember, and I went over and he came in the house about that time, and I opened up that little old top, and I looked down. I was fumbling around for a shell. I had the gun in my hand. He took one look at me. If I ever saw a man sober up in a hurry, I could always tell when he was drinking and different. I could tell when he had drunk whiskey, he'd turn green. I could tell when he'd be sloppy drunk on beer, he would, you know, have one of these, you know. But this time he sobered up. I mean, he sobered up like that. Scared him out of his hide. He took off and running like a jackrabbit. He went back. I guess where he went, I don't know. Next day he sold the gun. But I thought, and I'm so glad because I don't know. Even if I hadn't meant to shoot the guy, you know, who knows? He might have started on me next. You know what I mean? He was cleaning every house. And I figured, I'm not going to have this, you know. But that was the last little roundup he had. I remember he used to buy booze. He used to take money away from the kids and buy booze. We had this old storm cellar made out of, it was actually on his dad's. We were living in this little converted, there'd been a little old chicken coop thing with an addition put on the back. That's where we were living at that time. And if I found a bottle of his booze hidden away, I remember those little flat bottles, I can see them today yet. I would take it out there and I'd just plunk it on top of it. Cement. They were made out of cement. They called them storm cellars. But it didn't do any good. I mean, you can't fight it with that. I mean, they go right out and get some more, you know. Big bar of steel, whatever. Get some more booze. So, that didn't stop him. It didn't stop him when I broke his old windshield one time in the car. That didn't stop him. So his dad took my part. Fact is, he left me a little legacy when he died. It held up their estate for several years till they found me. He left his son Ronald $1. That's pretty bad. But he saw I wanted to do right, you know, and I did. And that's all I wanted. I wanted a husband that worked, a husband be a dad to the kids. And there's so many women nowadays that kick these good men out and think they're going to get a good-looking guy that looks like some kind of a movie star with muscles and all that stuff. That's the way they are. And it's so futile because when this good-looking guy hits about 40, he's generally going to get a pot belly, a bald head, and a florid complexion, you know, like a drunk, big nose. It's horrible. It's awful. I don't intend to take up all this time, but
I think it's fun.
oh dear. But it seems like it's one of those things. Well, then we went down to Beloit, and I started going to church. Like I say, I was a prime target for any kind of a church. I mean, any kind of a church. They could have preached, you got to stand on your head. You got to turn somersaults. You got to swing from the chandelier, or foam at the mouth, or roll in the aisles, or whatever. I'd have been a prime target. I'd have been right out there with the best of them, you know, or the rest of them. I thought, we went to Big Flats. The kids love Big Flats. Now, if you'd have gone out to Yvonne's, Ken said it reminded him of Big Flats. It really does. Kind of a scrub timber, you know, those small pine trees.
Yeah.
But now they have preserved that, they call it the National Forest. And they call it the forest. You don't live in the woods, you live in the forest up there, you know.
He said he's born and raised there. He likes it.
Yeah. And they've got a hog, they got this great big valley, and they call it Hog Valley. But I used to like Big Flats. The kids love Big Flats. You know, when Flossie Johns, Brother Johns, and all them were up there. They used to have those rip snorting meetings, and the one that was in the meeting carrying on was Laverne Stiggleman. She was one that she could talk. She's the only person in the world that I ever seen roll around. And everybody was having a march, and every time she'd come down around, her foot would go out and she'd kick poor old Brother LaSure. And he was the best old guy in the world. He was one of the best old men.
Yeah. Yvonne said she'd like to see Ruthie sometime.
Oh, what's happened to her?
Well, I don't know where she lives right now. I find out more. I went about 3 weeks ago to Clifford and Donna's house, but
Where do they live?
in Portage.
Portage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Ooh. What are they doing in Portage? I wonder.
Well, he's retired. He's not working at all. He pastored off and on, a year here and a year there, but his kidneys have given out. He has a real bad bladder or prostate or something kind of problem. But his mind's fine. He talks, and we were laughing last night. I said, Margie Cox Knappenberger, took me down there to see.
Oh, Margie Cox. That was a daughter of
That was one of the twins.
twins.
Doris.
Where's Doris? Is she living?
No, she died. Goodness. Probably
All these
she probably died 5 or 6 years ago.
These people have died off, haven't they?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there was the twins then. And then,
Yeah, Margie is one of them.
is she in Portage too?
No, she is in Westville, which is only like 30 miles
Oh.
away.
You know, I'd like to go to Portage sometime. I mean, if I ever got back
See
there.
where
and
you
I
used
doubt
to
it.
live?
Yeah. we started on that subject, and that's the subject to us. I mean, when I was there, they had a room upstairs, and I can see it yet. That's where somebody was supposed to have been killed.
Blood on the floor.
There was a big, I guess, it was a big old stain on the floor. It went into wood, this old rough plank stuff, you know. And there's no way that they could have gotten it out of that wood. They said that used to gamble up there. These men that were there guarding this from the Indians, evidently. They called it the old Indian Agency. And the spot above was there. Nobody used that room. It was kind of a rambling old place, and I remember the boys talking. I could remember those things like they were yesterday. And they would bet each other that they could go in there and sleep all night. So they'd take an old quilt and stuff. They'd go in there. They'd have some excuse. They would not stay in there all night. You know what I mean? And I don't, as far as I know, none of them ever did stay in there all night. It was on their head. But I took something away from that place. I was just a little kid. I remember they had this little stairs going up the back, came down to the kitchen, and they had the stairs in the front. I wonder if they've left it like it was originally. And then I don't know where Ivana, your mother, and my brother Paul got this Ouija board. I remember Leroy telling about his mother, and I believe she told me too that she burned up all that stuff when she got sick.
She loved black magic.
Yeah.
So she got to be a Christian.
But she burned it all, she said. She burned this Ouija board up. She realized how bad it was.
I didn't realize that they were that old. I thought Ouija boards was just invented when I was a kid.
Oh, they've been around. And so they had this Ouija board. I remember down right this, and they were all around the thing. And I remember standing there and watching it. I can see your mother and Paul. They put their hand on this kind of a funny shaped thing and asking questions.
Move it around.
I think I snuck and tried it, but I don't think it worked for me. But it did, in a way. Since that time of that Ouija board, and I know for a fact that something entered into me, a spirit of fear of some kind, I would not step out in the dark. I was deathly afraid of the dark. It turned me into a bedwetter because I was afraid to get up out of the bed, you know, and I keep my head covered up. Funny I didn't smother myself. I was a basket case of fear.
Huh.
And I know that spirit, you know, the Lord's not giving us a spirit of fear. That's a spirit. And I know that spirit attached itself to me. Tell them what else it did to all the other kids, I don't know. But the kids didn't, I mean, your mom and Paul, they didn't help matters any. They'd take me and tell me something was going to get me, you know, and leave me.
Brothers and sisters do things.
Did your
like
mother ever
that.
tell you about Paul and her putting me into this old, we used to call them a baby buggy?
No.
An old wicker baby buggy?
Not if there's anything against her, she wouldn't.
Get me up on top of this hill and give me a push in that baby buggy. I would scream. And then when the thing would turn over, I would scream and scream and scream. And here they'd come. Don't tell, don't tell. Don't tell, don't tell. But when Paul snuck off upstairs.
Does this sound familiar?
When Paul snuck off upstairs. And he was smoking up there. The only time I saw my mother, Paul was her pet. I mean, he was her pet.
Does that sound familiar?
But the only time I saw her hit him twice. Once when she was wallpapering and she wanted him to hand her some paper and he didn't want to, and he ran his hand up in that paper. She took her scissors and clocked him on top of the head. And this other time, he was smoking up there, and who tattled on him? I don't think I tattled on him. I think your mom tattled on him. And you know what? I remember him showing his back. She had an old bread knife with scallops, and she just took it and pounded him on, didn't cut him, but hit him on the back with that bread knife. And it left the marks of the scallops.
Ooh.
It didn't cut. It just, when she,
Made welts like.
yeah. But he got that for smoking upstairs. And the attic-like thing that they had there.
I think he smoked her till he died, didn't he, too?
She kept her stuff up there, her quilt pieces and stuff. Why, that would be a perfect place for a fire to start, And they had me back in the woods one time. I don't know what they were all doing back there. I know it wasn't something good. I know that much. They had me back there, and I had eaten some. When they found me, I had picked off these red berries with something or other, and I'd been eating them. Well, they had the idea that I had some poison. Well, one got on one side, one on the other, grabbing me and pulling me. I remember them grabbing me and screaming bloody murder and getting me back because I was going to die. Oh! But
Would they make you throw up?
I don't know what they did on that, but I remember those two dragging me home, running like crazy, screaming, And all those things, those things made an impression on me. And my brother Roland and my brother Paul was just a little, not too big, but he had a pair of scissors. And they were open, and he had them in his hand, and my other brother had something. They were kind of dueling. I don't see how he could duel with scissors, but he did, I guess. But he ran those scissors up in my brother Roland's hand and got this big artery up here. And I can see that blood. Every time his heart would beat, it would gush out. I can't see it yet. And I think they got him somehow at the doctor or some way. I don't know what happened after that. I guess I was so frightened I probably went and hid somewhere. But I remember that blood gushing out of his. And I remember how scared my brother Paul was.
Was that in Portage?
It was in Portage. He didn't mean it. I think it was in Portage or the other, but we lived on a farm out from Baraboo. There's a town there called Baraboo.
Mm-hmm. Circus World Museum.
So I better start getting my lunch for my company over
This is
here.
interesting, John.
Mhm.
We don't hear you don't hear stories about your relatives.
Horror
unless you
stories.
give
But
us.
I hate to have. I told you I came from a dysfunctional family.
We all have. He's created one himself.
I don't know what a family would be without, if you had a happy home, your dad and your mom and all your kids around, they were all happy,
Everybody, there's a joke in the world about people thinking there's such a thing as the Cleavers.
Oh,
There is no such thing as the Cleaver
there
family.
is. I don't think so. I don't think so because you could put on a big front, like Claudia's family. They can get together, but I know that even with the kids and Luther and stuff like that, it all isn't apple pie and honey.
No, it isn't.
Can't be.
Not when you're dealing with all kinds of personalities.
You can't. And all the in-laws, that can't be. So anyway, I know I'm going to have to read this before I start in on the lunch, but
You have a scripture?
I
Read
have a
it.
scripture, and we were talking about this horrible thing in the world now, and I was always wondering. I couldn't quite place this, didn't quite put it right. But now it has hit me right between the eyes, and I know what it means. Now this is found in Revelation, the 22nd chapter, and it tells about who's going to make it in. And the 14th verse says, "Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter into the gates into the city." Now, 15th chapter, and you read it. As I read it, just think on it a minute. "For without our dogs," and I used to wonder, dogs? Some people think they're going to have the dog in heaven. Dogs? Now I know what the dogs are. For that are dogs, sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. Now, the dogs lead the pack. I hate to say this, but some people in our nation have sunk to the level of a dog. The dog doesn't know better, but a human mortal should know better. God didn't create us and our body to be used as a dog uses a body. And I thought, hey, that's it. And the dogs are going to lead the pack here on this stuff. It names all this other stuff off, whoremongers, murderers, idolaters, and sorcerers, and everything. But now here, our own country is going down the drain. Because people are turning their back on the fact that our morality is so low that we have to be confronted with something like this. I know that Lot's righteous soul was vexed from day to day with the conversation of the wicked, but I don't even think that they were as bad in Sodom and Gomorrah as they are here now. Because as far as I know, I don't know if there were leaders there of the Sodom and Gomorrah pact, but I suppose maybe they were. But we find that Lot was sitting in the gate. He was one of the judges. So it all wasn't bad. But a Catholic
There
was
wasn't very many righteous in Sodom.
Well, there was only Lot, his 2 daughters and wife.
Yeah.
And then his wife didn't make it. And Lot brought that on himself because of his indiscretion and his covetousness. But nevertheless, he was righteous enough to be saved, you know what I mean, out of them.
He wasn't doing the same things those people were.
That's true. So we're in this thing. We're not doing what they're doing. But yet we're
Headed
here
that way.
as a nation. Now that's what brought this blight on us with the slavery and the colored people. We have to take care of these people. We have to put up with the crime cycle and all that sort of thing because they were done wrong in the first place by our nation. They should have been left where they belong, where God wanted them to be. But they were transported over here. Now we have to, we're confronted. Now, John, you probably know this. This has been a long time ago. We were going on Old 27, I think, at that time. Going down through Atlanta, was it 27, I guess? And they were having these riots, and they were turning all the cars upside down, the colored people at that time, quite a number of years back. I don't know, you probably wouldn't know about it. But I looked out the car, we were going through there, and there was just a sea of colored faces. I mean, a sea of it. And I know there's many more now than there was then. But that was the biggest area, colored. We went smack dab right down through that colored area. And all this unrest, you know, like, I guess it wasn't as bad as it was in California when, you know, they had this killing and all that stuff and beat that guy, you know, in the truck. You familiar with that, remember?
Okay.
Not that I'm racial, I'm not biased. And I know, I love the colored people, the good colored people, and I love the colored people's souls. But our nation did them an injustice. Moved them over here. Disrupted their home. Broke up their families.
Made them slaves.
And so now we have to put up with that. The trouble of it is, I was just reading the other day, they have a tendency for the sickle cell anemia. And even if you would marry somebody with that blood strain, you have a tendency, your children have a tendency for the sickle cell anemia. And that's something that was not quite as bad as AIDS, but it will get them in the end, you know. So
Die young of that.
that's inherited.
30 or 40s.
That's an inherited thing. That's in the bloodline. And anything I think that's in our bloodline like that, you see a lot of that in Utah, where they've had this intermarriage stuff, you know. You see a lot of these different diseases, the heart trouble and cancers and all that stuff there, a lot of it. This little Tim was going with this first girl that I knew that he was going with her name was Lonnie. She was a hard worker. This is a tiny little girl. I felt so sorry for her. In fact, I'm still praying for that girl. It hurts me when these guys go with these girls and then the guys drop them. Now, it can be one way or another. It can either be the women dropping them or the guys, but I guess I'm sensitive to the woman being dropped because, you know, I never had that love and nurture in my home and my children needed it so badly. But anyway, this little Lonnie, she had a girl. Her name was Mandy. They called her Mandy. Nell said to me, now look at her feet. She took off her socks. And she had this disease where they have these lumps come on them. And her little feet were all filled with these lumps.
You've seen her. She was there when we were there. A little girl. I think when we seen her, she was about 7-ish.
And they have, sometimes they get these lumps on their faces. It's very disfiguring.
She was having some operation.
Yeah.
Have some of that off.
Yeah.
And
They can take it off, but they can't stop it. Or at least they couldn't at that time. But that's a hereditary thing, you know. But, like Nell was saying, this hair lip and cleft palate, that's hereditary. I have read it is, and I read it isn't. I read that when a mother gets the folic acid they need, if they start early enough, then the child has a chance not to be cleft palate or hair lip.
I don't know. We got it in Leroy's family.
Have they got it there?
Just one, Sandra. So and she had a bad case of it.
Cleft palate?
Rosella Churches. Well, she'd be about the third from the youngest.
Now who's Rosella?
Rosella was Earl's way.
Oh.
They had 6 children. They were all fine except Sandra.
Well.
Sandra had a real messed up mouth.
Really? Were they boys or girls?
The
girl
combination.
Gee. Well, I'm going to have to get my nephew. Actually, Lot was Abraham's nephew. But Abraham called him his son.
Well, Lot chose, he must have liked things at that time too, because Abraham said, I'll go one direction, you go the other, and just tell me which way you want to go. And said that Lot looked over there and it looked promising and
well
pretty
watered and green.
And so I guess I'll take that section over there because it looks nice. So
he took the city. You get in these cities. Are you still at the police force there? Is it Decatur?
No, Cobb.
DeKalb.
No, just Cobb.
Cobb County.
Cobb County.
Cobb County.
Been a long time. We lived in Shamley. Shamley. They had a Shamley sandwich shop. Trying to say that. I worked there for a while at the IRS out in Buford Highway in Shamley. And at that time, we'd been in Dalton, Georgia, and we moved down there because I wanted to get something a little more substantial. And I put in for a job, and I got my job there. Of course, I could get transferred in because I was I had a career appointment with the government. But I did get in there, and at first didn't have much money, and they had some old barracks that they rented out. Somebody had got them from some army base around there somewhere. They were renting out those barracks. We got one of those barracks. We just had enough money. We sold this piano. Was that the place where I had the choice to pay the tithes? Yeah, I think so. I'd saved up some tithes. I think it was about $100 worth of tithes. I either had the $100 to go on or pay the tithes. Well, I decided to pay tithes. And that only left a piano and I don't know, not much money. I don't know exactly how much, but very little, very little. But that's the time you could buy your gas real reasonable and, you know, and the rent wasn't that much, but it was enough because you had to make a deposit. Well, we got down to Atlanta. It was about time for me to go to work. Well, the first place we went, though, was at Lawrenceville. It was just a little hick place then. I see now it's got kind of big. I guess it's all settled up there now. I wouldn't know the place. We stayed there a couple weeks, and then we got this other barracks place. And you had to pay a deposit. But you know what? The Lord shut that guy's eyes and never did ask for his deposit. So we didn't pay the deposit. We knew that there was a deposit. We paid later. We had the money, you know. But he didn't ask for the deposit. We didn't pay the deposit. He even got some furniture for us from some sort of wrecky stuff. And we were there. I'm going to turn. John, would you please turn that fan on? Can you stand a fan fanning on you?
Mm-hmm. John likes a fan.
I got one in
Turn
there.
it on.
What speed you want it on? Medium?
Well, whatever speed you. I put it on low speed, but if you want it on a higher speed, you try it. Well, the air is just going on too. But do you know what? We didn't pay that deposit until we had the money to pay it because he never asked for it. And they said, hey, I just run across. You owe your deposit. Fine, we'll pay the deposit. But every step of the way was to provide it. And that was where I met the Gibbies, and that's another story for itself. They lived in the next door, was it upstairs, whatever. And I remember her. They came from North Carolina, a little town called Andrews. It's up on the Ocoee River, going to, well, you pass through Cleveland and go on to Murphy. And she latched onto me, and bless her heart, she was good to write. Her husband married her when she was 13 years old. And she was Church of God. She's a Church of God lady. A good lady. And the best one in her whole family. That was a story in itself. And we kept up a correspondence. We moved to different places. We moved up in Chattanooga there and Rossville. She'd keep writing. We'd go visit over to Andrews. She made the best biscuits. I wouldn't drink their water because I was afraid it would come down in a pipe from the mountain and spring up there, and I'd see all these snakes and the copperheads crawling through that water. I wouldn't even drink. I'd drink the boiled whatever, you know. But I'll never forget that. All the adventures we had in that place. We finally got an old refrigerator somewhere. I don't know where we get that box, really. And Jack said, this guy was sitting out on the porch, wasn't doing a thing. This was in our barracks place in Buford, Atlanta, Buford Highway, or Shanley, whatever you want to call it. He said, hey, will you give me a hand with this refrigerator? And I said, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Oh, my. We went through a lot of things. One woman came home, and you could see what she was right off the bat almost. She said to Jack, he didn't have his shoes on. She said, I'm afraid to go in my apartment. Would you come up and check it out? And I didn't have money to go up there because, you know, those women get you in there and holler, rape, you know, you're done for it. But anyway, he goes traveling up those little steps. It was 2 stories. We lived down. And he gets up there, and he left the door open, went in and checked it. But I kind of tagged along a little bit, you know. So he didn't dare stay there very long if he even wanted to. So he came up. She never tried that trick again. She never got scared anymore. But he came down and he hit the first step with the socks and these old wooden steps. He hit every step I said, that's what you get. That's what you get for going up there flirting with her. He wasn't really flirting with her, but he didn't say, no, I don't want to go up there. And I just laughed. He got a beating. He really got one. Every one of those steps he got down there. I got to wash my hands.
Oh, wow. Never seen her talk that much before. Well, if it's your mom, and anyway, you don't think in terms, unless you're a nurse or something, or a relative don't see somebody, but sometimes she made sense and sometimes she didn't. And she could be aggravating when she'd say something that was aggravating. And, but then, now when I look back, I don't really like talking about it, I can see that she had a whole lot more on the ball than I did. You know, I mean, I miss that woman, miss her terribly more all the time. And I understand, I understand why I miss her. We had a clashing personality, but we had something very much more better for me, and I didn't realize it. And that is, my mom made me what I am. I mean by that, my independence, my spiritual ideals and knowledge.
Well, the last time, I was trying to think, I went up with the camps. No, I didn't. See,
I can't remember.
I came up with the camps, and then I took the bus back to Chicago. And then I come into Chicago and bring the bus up. Who picked me up? Well, I know Florence, I went to see Florence. Didn't I come another time after that?
I'm trying to think in my mind that I have that disease too.
Let's see,
I
Leroy.
can't remember.
The last time I was there was Leroy, yeah, because he and Jeff were doing crossword, or playing
Scrabble.
Scrabble.
Yeah, they did that every night.
They were playing Scrabble.
Somebody played Scrabble every night.
We used to like to play Scrabble a lot. Okay, so Leroy was still with me.
So it'd be before 1990, because he passed away 8 years ago.
Yeah, I've lived here 11 years. I've lived in here in this place 10 years. 88, I went to Israel. That's 10 years ago. And I lived in Castleberry for a year, so that's 11 years. 88 from 98 is 10 years.
So you moved in this general area to be closer to Yvonne and Claudia?
No, I moved up here. I really wanted to get in Sanford. I was looking for a place to rent or something, but rent's always been so high here anyway. I was paying, well, now just for a house like this, and maybe one a little bit bigger, you pay over $500 a month. If it's a pretty good one and clean one, you pay $525. Well, you can figure that's it's about over $6,000 a year, see. So that's
Well, that's most of your Social Security anyway, isn't it?
$6,000
You wouldn't have
a year.
nothing left much.
And so who wants to pay $6,000 a year? So I came up here and this house needed painting, needed a lot of work done to it, and I picked it up fairly cheap. And I bought the house and figured, well, I can fix it up and then I can put it on the market and sell it. By the way, I didn't get my mail, did I? Or did I get it?
I don't think so.
He did stop out here.
Does the front door work?
I
Or
keep
do
it
you go
locked.
around?
I keep it
Go
locked.
around, John.
Is it unlocked?
No, well, yeah, but I'm a little paranoid.
Mine won't open because we've had so much rain. My door's swelling, so.
Well, this will open, but the guy that fixed my sill there didn't do a good job.
So I'm trying to figure out what year that would be then.
Well, I know.
Probably in the 80s then,
When
huh?
did Florence die?
89.
Well, I was there the years she was still living.
And then it must
But
have
it
been 89.
I seemed like I came up another time. But how did I get there? I had to fly into Chicago. No. No. I came up, the last time I was with Floyd still must have been alive. But anyway, when I was there, probably got a bill. I noticed the difference in your mom. Larry and the girls were there that time, I think, for a short time.
Well, that's probably when Florence was sick or whatever.
Did I
Because
get a
Mom
bill?
did change a
No
lot.
bills.
No bills.
When Mom did change a lot when Florence went downhill, which I can understand big time. That was a trauma that's when my health started going downhill.
But
4.5 years being watching anybody understand it would be somebody that knew my sister, because she was as feisty and tough as they come. And watch someone go like that to in a year's time they couldn't eat.
Well, that would be
Another
awful.
year couldn't walk or talk or move their arms or anything. Be with her for 4.5 years every day. And then my biggest problem was I couldn't tell my husband, I couldn't talk about it at night, because my husband was concerned for me in the first place. I thought I was in good health at that time because God healed me quite a while before that of a bad nerve problem, if you want to call it, whatever it was. But Leroy was rather concerned about my health. I know that he was. If I would have come home at night and said, man, I don't know if I can take it tomorrow, or this is getting me down, or stuff like that, I know him. He'd have said, that's it. You're not going there anymore, because, I mean, we need you too. I mean, you can't be going down there
How long
every
did
day.
you have to take care of Florence?
4.5 years. It was hard.
Right.
It was hard on the nerves. And see, and what was happening, when I'd go home at night, I had to be my jolly self. So, I remember so well. I would scream and yell and cry and talk to the Lord and get it all out of my system in my car until I got home. And I remember this one night particularly. And I was screaming, I can't do this anymore. I've had it. I can't do this anymore. The next morning I got up and I was like I was on fire. I had a rash from head to toe.
Oh.
And just before that, a lady I had met through Mary Paul that works at WBEL radio station, and her humble jumble, we both talk a lot. But she mentioned she switched from the blood clinic because her friend was going there and they weren't doing nothing for her high blood pressure. And she went to this doctor in Rockford and he got her blood pressure down, and so Betty Church went there, and so this Betty Church decided, okay, I'm going to call him and see about this rash. I have to go to the doctor right away, or it was like it was on fire. And then I'm going to talk to him about blood pressure too on there.
Is there two Betty churches?
There's 3 of us.
You're kidding.
2 live in Roscoe, 1 in Rockton. I've met the one face to face. She's she worked at WBEL probably like 25 years or something.
You're actually Beatrice, though.
Yeah. Well, I think Betty Church, one of them is
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth. And I don't know about the one that works at Woodard Governor. I don't know if she's Elizabeth.
Well, there's a lot of them just plain Betty Jean. I guess that Betty Jean Bennett at one
Most people that are Bettys have a connecting word, like Betty Ann, Betty Jean, something like that. You know.
I think most of them were named this movie actress at that time, Betty what?
Betty Grable.
Grable.
You don't find any I did hear somebody call someone Betty. Here's Betty Midler, but she's also like, what would she be, 50, 48?
Probably early 50s.
There's not any young Bettys. People don't name their kids Betty.
They're going in for Lisa's, Nicole's,
Fancy name.
and
Now, right now it's Brianne or Brianna is big.
let me see, what was it they got, that little one?
Nicole was a while back.
Brittany, and I want to,
Brittany.
what do I want to call her? At first, when they were calling her Brittany, I wanted to call her something else. It seemed like it was Belinda or something.
Yeah.
It turned out to be Brittany.
My husband, when Melody was born, we argued about what that child's name was going to be, if it was going to be a girl. Because back then you didn't know, like they do now. You can tell 4 or 5 months ahead of time. So I said, we got to have a name for this child, and anything he liked, I didn't like, and we just had this little consultation going. So finally, when Melody, I guess I was in the hospital 5 days. It's amazing. Nowadays they kick you out the next day, but they made you stay 5 days then. And so the nurse came in the room, and she said, Mrs. Church, have you got a name for your baby girl? And Leroy happened to be there. And I said, I guess not. She says, well, this afternoon at 4 o'clock we're taking, evidently they took us back once a week from Beloit Hospital up to Janesville, Rock County Courthouse. She says, we're taking all the birth certificates, and it's going to be a blank one if you don't get a name by 4 o'clock for this child. So Leroy and I am going down all the A's, B's. We got clear to the M's, and I was reading off the names, and I said, Melody. He says, what? And I said, Melody. He says, you know that's not half bad. And I said, that's it. That's what the name's going to be. That's as close as you come. It's going to be Melody. And so I said, what are we going to put with it? And he says, well, what's wrong with Melody Ann? I said, that's fine. So I got a hold of the nurse. I said, our girl's got a name now.
Scared you into it.
I don't know if Melody likes that little story or not, but
Well, you must have had
almost nameless kid.
You must have had Diana and John named.
Leroy named him after his friend that he had all his life, Jack Bant. His name was John, and Leroy ran around with him for years. And actually, we were close with them when John was a little tot for a while, so we didn't communicate with them. Do you remember him? You remember the guy you were named after?
Very, very little,
And then, of course, his name is Leroy, John Leroy. That's after his dad. But that's how he got his name. But his sisters tease him that his name really is, he's really named John because he was almost born in the John. They love to tease him about
Well, that's Diana.
Diana, that's the reason I almost had John in the John, because those nurses were so mean to me. I thought they were mean when I was having Diana. I didn't know that I was having something different happen to me than everybody else. They put me in this little room with no windows or anything, made me lay on this table, and I was so stupid. I didn't know nothing about babies, nothing. And so these two took turns coming in to see if I'm staying on my back. But when I felt blood coming out, or I didn't know what it was, but I would bend up like that to see, and I would see these hunks of blood clots. And they'd come in and push me down. They'd say, Mrs. Church, we told you to stay flat on your back. Then I look on, and all the other girls that were having babies were walking up and down the halls, and I had to stay in this little dark
Well,
room.
no, that was Diana.
Mhm.
Well, now, remember we went in and we were signing you in? And they put you in
Water
this,
broke.
they took you in this bed, put you in this bed,
Yes.
and I went in there and checked you and I hollered at them. Remember that?
I don't remember. I remember you being the one that was with me.
I hollered at them and I said, this baby's being born. The baby was coming. Yeah.
Well,
Don't you remember that?
well, it was probably I was probably nuts by that time, because I remember you being with me, and remember you being with me in the car and everything, but I remember
But they had left you laying there,
Yes,
and
hours.
and
I don't know where you was.
I must have been in the waiting room, but because when I went in there, I hollered at them. I said, she's having her baby.
Well,
You were
good,
having your
glad you
baby.
did.
They whisked you off to the delivery room after I went in there.
Well, I laid in there for a long time, and I tell you what I did do. I vowed to God, if I ever have another baby, I am not going to go hours before this child's going to be born, because no maid, because later on someone told me that both of those old ladies were nurses that never been married, never had a baby, and I thought they were just being mean to me, which they weren't really, but they don't explain to you what's going on with you.
Sometimes these doctors don't show up. Now, this was in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I know it was after 12 o'clock.
Well, I understand what was going on
And
now,
they
but I
probably
didn't
were
then.
hunting up your doctor. Maybe they couldn't get him, maybe they'd called him and he wasn't showing up or something.
I don't know. I know what was going on now, but I sure didn't then. I thought, that thing's not on, is it?
What?
I sure hope not. He has a tendency to have that running sometimes, and I thought, I'm saying the most weirdest stuff, and he
I
just,
hope it.
he
I'm
just
glad you didn't
laughs.
have it on this morning because I was a rattling. You'd put not only a quarter, you'd put a $50 in me. I wore myself off.
But, you know, what had really happened was, first of all, my water broke, which was against nature.
And you stopped in to get me.
Yeah, and then, when we got to the hospital, they put me in this little room. And I was there for a long, long time. And I kept seeing these blood clots, and I was so stupid, I thought, and no one was talking to me or telling me what was going on, but I thought my baby fell all apart and it's all in blood clots. That's how dumb can you get? But see, that goes against nature. I mean, that is a serious thing, what was going on with me. I mean, to have your afterbirth burst first, that's what it was.
That shouldn't have been.
Well, but see, that's what happened to me twice.
You could have
Only
died.
with Diana, it turned out all right. You know, I could have her natural. But the same identical thing happened with my baby that did die. The afterbirth was right across the birth channel, and it burst, and I hemorrhaged,
Oh.
and lost so much blood.
Was
that
he born dead?
No, he only lived one day.
They probably could have saved him now.
But I didn't expect that, because that's one time John and I were talking. I said, I was telling John night for last it was. I said, it used to upset me when people would say that God showed them a neat vision or showed them where they were going to move or work or all this stuff. And I think, well, man, God don't show me nothing. Tell me no stuff, you know, like that. But that's one time God told me, definitely, 2 times, that I knew that baby was going to die. I knew something was radically wrong. I couldn't even walk around the last half of that pregnancy. I'd be in bed all the time, because as soon as I'd walk around, the blood would start coming down my legs. So I had to keep laying
You should
down.
have been in the hospital.
I had to stay in bed. Those kids, that was a time in their lives that they needed me, and I was really messed up. And then after the baby died, to top it off, I lost so much blood, it put my system in a nervous state, and for 4 years I was.
Now that was little Fred that died.
I probably caused havoc in their lives big time because I was not normal, I know. But then God healed me, 1968, and I steadily got better ever since after that until lately.
You sound like me. I was used to try to hang a guilt trip on myself because I had to work and support the kids.
But I don't look at it like that now, and I don't think your kids would either. Like I used to tell Helen Ellenberger, because she's not an optimistic person in the first place. She has a lot of down days. And one of the things, way back when the kids were still home, and her husband, for what reason I don't know, was living in Hollywood, California. What he was doing, I don't know. But anyway, he wasn't supporting the kids, and he wasn't correcting them or anything, and here's this little woman trying to do it. And so he would call on the phone, talk to the kids, and they'd be all excited. It's your turn to talk to Dad and stuff, and she'd say how mad she was, and she felt like slamming the phone down and stuff. And he's telling his kids what movie stars he saw and all the stuff that little kids like to hear. And so she'd cry on my shoulder. She'd say, boy, that really irritates me. I have to wash their clothes, cook their meals, give them whatever they need and correction and everything. And I'm the bad guy, and he don't do nothing, don't even send money here. And when he calls on the phone, he's like the jolly good prince, I said, I'll tell you something, Helen, and it happened. Those kids are going to grow up someday and have children of their own, and then they're going to think like an adult. My mom's the one that worked hard to wash our clothes, cook our meals, get us ready for school, and blah, blah, blah. And it happened. And she got close to her kids when they got older.
How many? She had quite a family.
She got sick. She finally got a little girl. I don't think she tried having a bunch of kids till she got a girl. It just happened, but her youngest child was a girl. Oh.
I vaguely remember her. She had a hard life. And did he come back to her?
He's died. He came back to Wisconsin and lived, oh dear, somewhere like Black River Falls. And then the boys were older then. I think even Helen moved up there for just a short time. But anyway, a terrible. That's not John.
Cushing.
Okay, Cushing is the name. Okay.
And
I
they
didn't
had
even know the
they
name.
had several children there.
Yeah.
Girls, a boy.
And some of those now, one of their daughters has been living for a long time in Appleton. And my mom and I, one time we were up north at some church thing, we went over there and tried to find this girl that was Dolan Francis's daughter. And
person wouldn't know what her name is. Even.
Well, we found out ahead of time, but Mom was not great. Mom was not a people person, as I am. Mom was 100% property of the Lord. She lived and breathed the Lord. And not that she didn't like anybody, but she told me something one day, and I couldn't hardly believe it. And she said, when I was a little baby, like maybe 1 year old, there was a family reunion at Pontiac, Illinois, and your brothers and whoever all was there. And she said they went out to the school, or no, churchyard for a big picnic. And she said that she was sitting there and the guys and her dad started joking around, and then they started telling stories. Well, with Mom, it don't have to be too rare. I mean, she don't like John and I were laughing today. She'd turn the news right off. What's on the news nowadays, she wouldn't even hear of it. But anyway, this particular day, she picked me up and took my food and sat up on the steps of the church, and she says, her dad, your dad, yells up there, "What's the matter, Tom? Are you too good for the rest of us down here, or what?" And she said, "Well, I don't like your conversation," or something like that. And that was the end of it. And I thought, she might be right and I'm all wrong, but how I would have handled that would have been completely different. I'm only saying this to show you how different I am than Mom. And thank God I probably should be more like my mom than I am like me. I would never get up away from my loved ones unless they were really, really nasty. You know what I'm saying? There must have been other people there at the table you could talk to
This is
or
ringing
ignore.
a bell somewhere way back in some.
Well, you would have been a whole lot. When I was a baby, how old would you have been?
I'm 13 years older than you are, so.
So you'd have been 13, if I was 1, you'd have been 14 years old. Were you there?
I wasn't there, but I've heard about something on this order that,
About the family reunion?
we always, every family reunion we had, it seemed like, I'm not talking about that one, but Pete Bolander would come drunk. And one time my
I
mother,
was scared of that family.
one
They
time
were
my
big
my
people.
mother, I could tell she's putting this on. She fainted.
Your mom fainted?
But I knew she was putting it on. She was kind of a ham actor too, And she just, when they were fighting, and I, what in the world? Nobody ate any ice cream. They brought a great big, those great big things that serve ice containers. Well, Pete would get everybody in a fight. And he got them all a fighting about something. I don't know what it was. If he'd have been there, I'm sure I'd have blamed it on him about this story that he was telling. Somebody was telling. But I remember and somebody, I think, took some water and threw it on my mother's face. I made her mad. It's good. She wasn't out that bad, Oh, dear. It was horrible. It was funny and everything else. But I ate so much ice cream that I couldn't hold anymore.
You had fun anyway.
But it happened every time. He came up to me.
I don't trust you. I don't trust him at all.
Oh, dear.
What? What?
He's dead and gone. They're all dead. They're all dead now. Every last one of them's dead, just about, except me. But,
I wanted to, what I did, I didn't feel like it, but I did it anyway. Because I thought, God, if you're in it and you want me to do this, I'm going to do it. But this family lives in Appleton, and there's no church people around there. And a long time ago, this family latched onto me. The kids think I'm their grandmother, and the parents think that I'm an angel dropped out of heaven.
really?
Well, their name is Costello, and they got saved in California some years ago. It would be like 21 years ago. Be more than that, because they got married in the church, got a prophecy. Just a year or so after they met somebody. They went to college in California, and while they were in college, they started going to church, they got saved and stuff, and then they got married in the church, and they lived out there. Had two, could have had three of their kids in California. In the meantime, he works for Kimberly-Clark. One of their offices is in
They make
Neenah.
diapers, don't they?
That's what they make in Neenah. And they also have factories that make Viva paper towels. Have you ever had any? Oh, man, I can't even afford them, but they're the best in the West. They give me stuff because he gets them from work, and they'll send me home paper towel and napkins and stuff, but not no diapers. I don't need that. But anyway.
I could use the pull-ups for Montana at night. I don't want those diapers on.
Yeah, those pull-ups neat. Well, anyway, Peter and Marilyn are extraordinary Christian people. I mean, you would like them. They don't watch TV, and she homeschooled her kids most of their years. And her last three children she had, I went up to her house and stayed there a week or so, while she had the baby until she got on her feet. And so this few weeks ago, she had her 21st anniversary, and they want to go away a night overnight. So they were gone Friday afternoon, Friday night.
So you watched the kids.
And I stayed at the house for the kids. Well, the
That's
oldest,
nice. You are their grandma.
their oldest boy is 17, and the next oldest boy is 15, and then there's a little girl about 10. That's the one I was telling Melissa yesterday was so talented. Those kids are all extraordinarily smart and talented, but that's all. They don't sit and watch TV. They are rich too. They're not poor people, because he has an excellent job. And I saw Scissors, his ex-sister-in-law. We stopped to see her Sunday afternoon, and she's doing something really neat now, and it would be fun to do if you had a lot of time. She's making, I know I got way off the track, but that's all right. Made me think of it was all this craft supplies and stuff. Marilyn has boxes and boxes of stuff, not necessarily the stuff that Melissa's got now, but she buys fancy scissors, fancy papers. Her kids adore, the younger in-between ones, adore stickers. And they use them for all kinds of things. And Marilyn uses stickers when they do a good job on their schoolwork and stuff. So whenever I got my hands on stickers or found some on sale, I sent them up to their house. Matter of fact, I took them some last time I went up there. Wish I had some back, because some of those you could use for a project like Melissa's making. But his ex-sister-in-law is doing memory books. It's the newest thing that the craft people are into now. They take picture albums, and don't just plop pictures on there.
That reminds me, I'm going to go out and check on some of those pictures. Oh, I got any left. Like I say, I gave the girls a bunch of my albums because they were getting so many.
He wants to show you, he wants to do something with you too, so we don't want too much time to get away. But anyway, Melissa, instead of like plopping down pictures, square like they are, you take and make little, cut them out maybe in an oval shape, and have a fancy little oval frame, for example, that like gold or whatever. You can buy all this stuff, cost a bundle. I'd figure out a way to get that same effect a whole lot cheaper than she used to. I looked at $5.95 for a plastic bag of some of that stuff. The scissors were on sale at Michael's yesterday for $29.95 for 6 pair. But they, and what,
Oh, live it up. But the
well,
K
she's
through blah blah
she's not
kind.
hurting, she's not hurting from, this gal that I'm talking about is a, risk, she's a nurse in where the babies are born, and she takes care of high-risk babies.
Oh.
She's not no dummy, so she has good bucks probably, right?
Well, let me ask you a question on this. How about the Matthews?
Goldie was real bad off for a while, but she had Alzheimer's and was acting really goofy and didn't go away or wouldn't talk about anything. And Margie, I saw Margie a few weeks ago. She said she snapped back. She
Who's
must have
Margie?
got healed. Margie Cox, Knappenberger.
Oh.
You know the twins, Doris Cox's
Oh
daughter.
yeah.
Okay.
Now,
See, she lives up north, and when she goes to church, Gerald Matthews still preaches.
does
He's whatever age by now, I
he's
don't know.
older than but I never heard him preach. He got up and said a lot of words, but I never could find him following through on a
Put you to sleep, but that's all right.
on a special
He's
subject, or making a point. Just like poor old Brother Burdine out. They get up and talk and run a lot of words together, but you never. Well, he sure.
Everybody isn't. Now you're hitting on a subject I talked to John about.
He sure did a good
Another
job.
one.
But what did he say? What did he say?
Oh,
Now, I like somebody that's gonna-
everybody that's called is not called to be a minister. That's the
I
whole
think Mama
point.
calls a lot of them, Daddy calls a lot of them, the overseer calls a lot of them, and I don't think they've got to call one. Because I think
there's a necessity for all kinds of things, and just because you got a calling on your life, you can't be a preacher always.
there's all kinds. There's administrators.
You
there's,
got it.
There's all kinds
Just
of.
like with John. John was born with a knack. I guess he got his from his dad. And I don't know what you call this. I was talking to one of my friends about this one day, and I don't know who I was talking about in case you're running that thing. But I said some people just aren't aware of things. But ever since John's been a little kid, he's known, like, if somebody needs help, he sees that, he does it, or at church ever since he was a little kid. He knew when the light should be on or off, or somebody should be carrying a chair somewhere, or whatever. I don't know off the top of my head, but you know what I'm saying. It's a knack that you have.
I believe the Bible refers to a person like that as a deacon.
He has a knack of knowing what to do and what not to do and when not to do it, so to speak. And some people, they can look right at an old lady trying to drag up the stairs, and it wouldn't mean a thing come to their mind. I should try and help them up the stairs, or
I was so happy when
anything.
I saw Ken help a lady across the street the first time.
He is sweet.
He was never that tall. I never remember bearing down on him or anything, but he just knew.
He saved my life.
What?
Yvonne and I were laughing last night about that because I didn't know when. I was only like 17, 18 years old. I don't know exactly. Ken and Leroy and I don't know who else is out there at this point, but we were out at Lions Beach in Janesville. And those guys told me to stay up on the shoreline because they were going to go out and swim. There's a raft out in the middle of the, where Lions Beach is? There's a raft out there. It's in James. So they were out there playing around, and I'm just walking around like a dum-dum up on the shoreline with the kids. So I thought, okay, I'm going to teach myself to swim if it kills me, and it almost did. So I'm just learning myself to swim as best as I could, and I thought I was really making progress. And all of a sudden I got tired, and I thought, I'm gonna rest now. And I started to stand up, and I realized I couldn't hit bottom, and the water was about up to here. And so I'm going, help, help, and Ken was telling me, because he remembers this, because I talk about it often with him. He says, all these people on the raft saw me, and they thought I was acting smart, and they didn't do anything. My darling boyfriend then didn't do a thing. And so big-hearted Ken, he said, this last time when I talked to him, just this couple months ago, he said he looked into my eyes. He said, I thought that old Beatrice was probably serious and needed help. So he came over and got me on the back of the. I'll never, as long as I live, forget this. And he came over and got me back of the neck like that and took me up to the shore. And he said, now you stay up there where you belong. And anyway, I was telling that story to someone in your family, one of your kids, and they said, Ken, he can't even swim. And so when I was there out to Ken's the other day, I said, Ken, I just found out you can't swim. How could you save my life when you can't swim? He said, well, I can swim at it. That's about it. So I was talking to Yvonne last
Who
night.
said he couldn't swim? I thought
He said himself, didn't he? He told me he couldn't swim, and Yvonne told me last night, she says he can't swim very well. He can probably swim. He could swim some. He came and got me, but I mean, he's not like their dad and John. John, you can swim like a fish, can't you?
I guess out west, Tammy's got a pool, and they said those two